replace Ben Bernanke as the new Federal Reserve Chair? It's a question that's turned into a bit of a guessing game. Two candidates are emerging. In this morning's U.S. Bank Economic 360, U.S. Bank Vice President and Senior Portfolio Mike Denneman joins us to talk about this. Good to see you, Mike.
Good morning, Brian.
So when does Bernanke step down?
It'll be coming early next year, so a lot of attention being paid to who the president might nominate. If you think about it, this is going to be a very important transition with the market and the economy somewhat in turmoil. This is not just your average changing of the guard, so a lot more attention being paid this time around than last.
It doesn't happen that often either. Bernanke's been there 8 years, but before that, Greenspan had been 18 years as the Fed chairman.
Sure.
Who are the two candidates that we're looking at now?
Sure. There's really two front runners that have emerged, Janet Yellen and Larry Summers. Both very accomplished economists, both with very strong resumes. Janet Yellen, not really a very common household name, not one that people recognize, but she is in fact second in command at the Fed right now. She's vice chair, so she might have a bit of an inside track. Certainly knows her way around the Fed, having had several posts there. And in addition to that, she was a key economic advisor to President Clinton. Larry Summers, on the other hand, someone the public is a little bit more familiar with, certainly doesn't shy away from the limelight, and has not had any direct role at the Fed, but does have a pretty good resume. He was chief economist at the World Bank. He was Treasury Secretary under President Clinton, although people are probably most familiar with him for his somewhat controversial tenure as president of Harvard.
There is a substantial amount of limelight with this position. It's very brief sometimes, but when the Fed chair speaks about Fed policy, there's usually a pretty strong reaction either way by the market. So I guess it's the way they present things that really makes a difference. How do you see these two potential Fed chairs differing in that manner?
Sure. Well, each has their strength, and each might have something that's a bit of a handicap. Larry Summers, of course, is someone who's comfortable being in the public eye. So from that standpoint, the media relations part of the equation is well covered there, whereas Janet Yellen a little bit more reserved, a little bit more behind the scenes. On the other hand, Yellen seems to have a better handle on the policy side, probably someone who would provide more continuity, whereas the views on monetary policy of Larry Summers aren't well known, so he's a bit of a wild card there. So asking the market, what they would prefer, I think with all the skittishness out there now, all the concern about where interest rates are going, a new Fed chair that doesn't rock the boat too much probably would be viewed as a positive. So
you're thinking about Yellen then?
Yellen there, yes.
That would be your prediction?
Yeah.
And the market would probably like that?
Well, anything that's going to maintain some continuity, maintain that status quo, at this point with everything sort of up in the air, if you introduce a little confusion to that, if you introduce that wild card, you don't know what you're going to get.
All right, Mike. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate you and U.S. Bank.